Let me know if you can hear me out there, folks. Let me know. All right. Very good, very good. Okay, so don't forget, if you have questions about the FOMC trade and you want to ask about it, feel free. It really was just an NQ trade that didn't work. AJ, I thought I did answer that. It means 15 ticks above and below the current price at the time that we activate, okay? Jeff, you know, it's like I was saying, it's why it's not a family money trade. It's inconsistent. Last month, it was $1,000 trade because it went a monstrous amount of ticks in one move. So, you know, it's worth risking the 100 in a regular trader account, you know, that doesn't have $2,000 in their account. You can trade it the way I traded it today, just looking for a big move. You have a couple of stop outs, but you catch that big move and it's worth it, you know? It might very well be, Jeff, that in this market, a 20 tick stop might make more sense. 15 is pretty big. I mean, normally that's generally a safe bracket for most of our 20 tick bracket. What did I say? 20 tick bracket. Normally, I don't mean stop. I don't think the stop is really the issue at all in that trade. It's the bracket. It's the bracket and the entry time. You definitely don't want to go in at 58, and even 59. Most months is too early. And very honestly, it's the best trade as the squeeze play this morning. Wait for the explosions and then try to trade the trend. That's the ideal way to learn how to trade the FOMC. However, that's not our DNA. We're looking for the explosions. And Jeff, I won't tell you that my testing shows 0, is the time I would most often enter, but you know, I've seen some 59s where the move explodes. It's very difficult when a trade is inconsistent. That's really the issue. Inconsistent reactions just make it so difficult to come up with a setup that's stable. It's just part of the game. You know, you got to be able to deal with it without crying in a corner. You know, you can't go in the corner and drive yourself nuts. You just can't. If you go in the corner and drive yourself nuts, you'll never be able to trade this way. You'd spend your whole life in the corner. All right, so we're streaming, folks. Just so you know, we are streaming. Um, so Facebook. Let's get into that. We got 30 seconds. We'll go in the room. So I'll go over the tools that I'm using. I'm using Financial Juice Pro. I really like Financial Juice Pro. I hope they don't start to compete with us. I'd rather they just stay a great tool and partner. I just really am happy with their tools. All right, Facebook earnings, 10-minute trades, trade room. I want to welcome everybody. We're streaming on YouTube. Thank you for joining with us. If you'd be kind enough to give us a like and subscribe to the channel so you'll know every time we're streaming. We stream at least 4 times a week. My name is Lee Goldstein, Trading Director for 10-Minute Trades. Remember that all the trades we discuss are for educational purposes, and it is possible to lose money trading futures. I guess if they came out with software that traded the news, that would be competing. Now, I don't have any reason to think that they're doing that. It's not so easy, very honestly, to write software like we wrote. Yes, you could write a quick bracket trade, but we haven't even touched upon what the software can do. You got to go through the videos on the website because so much stuff, so many features of the software are explained in those videos. So just so you don't forget, I'm using a multi-broker account with NinjaTrader. So I'm hooked up to TD Ameritrade on my secondary monitor. Okay. I'm watching the price of Facebook. And I'm also hooked up to Facebook on my NinjaTrader account. I have 2 connections, TD Ameritrade, and I have to actually change to my non-family money account. It's not fair to trade non-family money trades in the family money account. We promised we would try not to mix accounts and be honest and transparent. And that's what I do. I'm actually $80 over in my family money trade. I made one trade we accidentally traded in the family money trade that was a winner, and it's $80 above what it really should be if we want to be 1,000,000,000% honest. That's the truth. So I'm looking at a Facebook chart, and I'm looking at a Facebook chart. So some people say, why are you looking at 2 Facebook charts? I don't trust the API that connects Facebook to NinjaTrader as much as I trust being directly connected to Thinkorswim, TD Ameritrade, Charles Schwab. That's who actually owns it. I like the reliability of connecting directly to the broker for the price. Now, usually the data feed is pretty good into NinjaTrader for our purposes. Our purposes are not to trade Facebook stock. We just want to know when the earnings have been released by following and seeing the move. There will be a big move. And there will also be a move that also pushes the NQ. Because remember, we're trading earnings using the NQ as a proxy. Mostly the FANG stocks: Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Alphabet, G for Google. Okay, mostly the FANG stocks. However, we trade Apple. We're now adding Tesla. We trade Intel. I'm definitely going to start trading Intel again. I took a break because it wasn't so dramatic, but I think the market's interested. Microsoft, going to keep them in the hunt. And I'm going to keep looking for new ones. So it's a full-time job, frankly, just to do earnings if you wanted to. We could do that as a full-time job and just trade quarterly if we had the resources to devote to it. You know, nobody says you have to trade daily, weekly, monthly. There's no law that says you can't be a quarterly trader and make money in the markets. I knew people that traded once a year. They had one trade, that was their trade, and they either made money or lost that year. There's so many different ways of trading. There's no law that says you have to be a day trader. People like the action. People think they have to make money every day or lose money every day or whatever. But no, you don't. It doesn't work that way. Whatever fits your DNA and your comfortability level, there's so many options. And that's one of the attractions of trading also, is that there's so many different ways that people can do things. But we're just getting started, folks. If you're new, sit back and relax. You've got at least 5 months to come into the trade room. And that's my recommendation. Come into the trade room. That's how you're going to figure this out. If you just read the DMMs, it's not enough. It's not enough. If you just use the software, I don't think it's enough. You need all three. When we did this sale, the whole idea of the sale was, yes, we know we have a lot of DMM subscribers only, but if you really want to do this the absolute best way, there's 3 elements, and those elements are the moon, the sun, and water. DMMs, software, and the trade room. They all go together. It's a symbiotic relationship. I highly recommend come into the trade room. It's part of your subscription. Ask questions. Don't be shy. Don't be embarrassed. I'm not mean. I never throw anyone out. I don't think I've ever thrown anyone out of the trade room in the X amount of years that I've been here. I don't even know how many years I've been here. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, please give us a like. We're doing this for free for you, for free. So give me a like. Just say, hey, thanks. Even if you don't like it, give me a like. All right? Now, so I'm going to use a 1-minute chart. I'm going to use a 1-click range trade. Okay? It's very simple to set it up. Don't get scared because it's not a breakout trade. It's a manual entry using buttons. Tuxedo suit buttons. Buttons. Ninja Trader little buttons. I'll show you what I mean. There's not a whole lot that's complicated about the setup, except not getting scared. That's the hardest part of earnings trades. There's no set time that you can count on. All I know is that Facebook is going to release their earnings approximately between 4 and 4:05. That's really all I know. I use the website earningswhispers.com to get my calendar of trades, earnings releases that I'm interested in. Earningswhispers.com is a very decent site. It's, you could use, some people like Market Watch. There's all sorts of sites. You don't have to do what I do, but Earnings Whispers is really convenient. You go to the site, you click on calendar. Today is Wednesday, the 28th. I click on list view so that you can see the stocks by the list, not by the big symbol, like a bigger icon, like so. See how much bigger that is? It just takes up more space. So do the list view. Then AMC is after market closed. First thing I do is I sort alphabetically, A to Z. That's what I do when I'm creating the schedule, and I look for the companies that are releasing earnings week. So I go through it. I look always for Amazon, Facebook, any company that's big, expensive, and I think will move the NQ. So first thing I do is I go alphabetical, I sort, and after you do a sort with Earnings Whispers, it's weird. It goes back to BMO before market open. So put it back on AMC after market close. So I go through it, and then I find out, hey, Facebook 405. It's trading, releasing their earnings Wednesday the 28th. All right. Then I go back, I resort by time. After the market close, put it back on after market close. So now I'm looking 4 o'clock and later. Okay. I'm looking now, right now, to see if we have any serious conflicts with Facebook. You know, like Qualcomm, you know, it's a stock that people look at. But it's theoretically 5 minutes different from Facebook, but honestly, you don't know that for real. It's only a rough release time. So I'm just going down slowly, but around the time of Facebook, I don't really see a lot of conflict. You know, there's some 4 o'clock stocks. Qualcomm is the biggest. That just makes me think. But I'm certainly not worried about Columbia Financial or Max Linear or Safe Bulkers. You know, they're not going to affect the NASDAQ. And remember, we're using the NASDAQ as a proxy. So if it's not a NASDAQ weighted stock, we don't have to be all that concerned with it to begin with. Now, let's not forget at 4:15, we'll stick around. We'll see if PayPal moves the market at all. They've never released their earnings. I don't want to use the word never. In all the time we've been doing this, PayPal, the market used to be closed when PayPal released their earnings. Don't let me run out of here. Remind me to stay, please, for PayPal. So that's how I figure out what's releasing. Ford, they won't move the NASDAQ all that much, Jeff. So, I mean, certainly Ford is important. It's a car company. Markets look at it. But historically, Facebook is big. Now, we're either going to get stopped out or we're going to have a good trade. I mean, that's how it works. Facebook last quarter, it was trading pretty close to Tesla. I think it was maybe one of the first quarters Tesla changed their release time to be around normal 4 p.m. closing. Tesla used to do like 5 p.m., 6 p.m., all weird, very strange release times. Facebook has a tendency to be after 4:02, but these stocks, they could release any time between 4:01 and 4:03. So, you know, it's up to you. You don't have to put your orders on the chart until 4:02, but you could miss the trade. Now, if you trade earnings like we do, the one thing you'll never do is go crying into the corner if you miss a trade. It's so easy to miss a trade. You could put your orders on late. You could not see the move. You could think the move is not really doing anything. You could just, you know, there's so many judgments that come into play. You could have your orders too far apart at the time. You just can't sweat it. You can't let it bother you. The idea is to give it your best shot. And, you know, when you're done with the day, you look at yourself and you can be happy that you gave it your best shot. You tried your hardest and you didn't just trade like a nut randomly without doing any homework, but you gave it, you did some research. You tried to make it work. Have pride in what you do. Don't just think it's going to work because you're following me. It's not. You must know what you're doing. Now, so to set up my trade, I'm going to use, no, it's no bracket. You just start on ticks above the range, 15, ticks below the range, 15, and one click bars look back. Let's look at the volatility on the market. I've seen worse markets, but the NQ is, it's pretty volatile today. So I'm going to use 6 bars. I'm going to look back 6 bars. It's going to use those 6 bars I look back to place my 15 ticks above and below the high of the 6 bars or the low of the 6 bars. That's the point of the one click 6 bars. Okay, the 6 bar look back. I'm going to just trade 2 contracts because I'm in my boss's account. Okay, earnings, you can trade 1 contract, no target, just like we did the whatchamacallit, the FOMC. No problem trading it that way. If you get a big move, you might get a real nice opportunity to trail your stop. But I'm going to trade looking for 7 ticks and 40 ticks. Okay, I'm going to use an 18 tick stop. Let's be honest. If it's not so much the stop that's the trade killer in earnings. The trade killer in earnings is a whip. A whip is what's going to hurt us. If you get a decent move, you could have a 5 tick stop. And that's the funny thing about the stop is, I don't know if you all were watching or listening, but last week, by accident, I put a 5 in my Tuesday oil stop instead of 15. And I traded that trade with a 5 tick stop. That was the one where everybody made a ton of money because it was just a straight move. It didn't whip. So an 18 tick stop, if it's going to stop me out at 18, it'll probably stop me out at 22. Not always, but an 18 tick stop, that's about what I want to risk. You know what? It's my boss's account. I'll do 20 ticks. He can afford it. 20 ticks, risking about $200 per contract. The trade type, and that's the key, it's a one-click range trade. Nothing fancy. It just means we're going to use a button. I click it once, and it sets my trade orders on the screen. That's all the name means. You're going to click once, and my orders are going to show up on the screen. It's not that big a deal. Nothing to be afraid of. All right. I think, the biggest trader disease, the 2 biggest trader diseases, number 1 always is fear. Number 2, patience. Not having patience. My number 1 is not so much fear as it is patience. And I have fear. Just because I'm the trader and moderator does not mean that I never have fear. There are some trades where my heart is in my throat, and that's the truth. But my fear doesn't cripple me. And that's the difference between when you're so new and you're so afraid you can get crippled and not be able to function. My fear, it might give me a heart attack, but it's not going to stop me from trading. So we've got ticks above the range, 15, ticks below 15. One click bars look back, a fancy way of saying how many bars are we going to use for our high and low range. That's all it is. And then we're going to put that range, those orders, 15 ticks above the 6 bars, 15 ticks below. I'm going to use 1 target for 7 ticks, 1 target for 40 ticks. I'm going to use a 20 tick stop. I think you probably could use 15 to 18. The trade type is a one-click range trade. So what happens when you apply and okay a one-click range trade, and let me do it in sim because we have a couple of minutes. When it's in sim, so I can show you where the orders are going to show up, just so you understand what I'm talking about. So it's in sim, same exact setup. When I enable the trade, I get my buttons. I don't want to enter the market long immediately. I don't want to enter the market short immediately. That's what the last two buttons are on the right. We're interested in one-click range entry. It's going to look back 6 bars. Remember, 6-bar look back. And it's going to put my orders there, 15 ticks above and below. And then I'm going to move my orders around until Facebook decides it wants to come out. That's the concept. Facebook is having a coming out party, and we're trying to catch the move. All right? That's all that we're doing here. Trying to catch the move. It's not that big a deal. What's a big deal is keeping control of yourself while you manipulate the orders, while you're also looking to see if the earnings came out. It's challenging. It can be challenging because I'm going to put my orders on the chart pretty close to 4 o'clock. So I'm going to have to manipulate my orders maybe for 3 minutes. It's nerve-wracking. Really, it's nerve-wracking. And, you know, it's nerve-wracking and frustrating to get stopped out in front of a room full of people. Even though this is not a family money trade, right? It's still nerve-wracking. Now I'm down $100 from the FOMC because our NQ setup, which should be a bond setup, and next month for me will be a bond setup. I've already made the request that we add bonds because testing shows that the FOMC statement is now working well on bonds. Today it didn't work that well. It was a delayed reaction, which is not unusual, but it didn't work badly either. So here is our big candle. This candle is going to control our orders because it's a big candle. And that's not 100% true yet because that's 9 minutes away from 4 o'clock. So that candle is not going to have any effect because what are we doing? How many bars? 6. So essentially 6 minutes, right? Essentially 6 minutes. So actually that candle will not have an effect on our orders. Does everybody get the idea of what we're doing? It's not that complicated a setup. The tricky part is, you know, trying to keep your orders away from the market price, but close enough so you get a decent fill. So if there isn't a gigantic move, you can still get a profit in and out, okay? Ideally, you want a move that's beautiful like last week's oil trade where it just explodes and goes in one direction. And let's be honest, we get a lot of those trades. They happen a lot. All the time. It's not rare, you know? It's not rare. We get those kinds of trades, and we get management trades. It's all sorts of stuff. And that's the fun and the challenge, right? Let's check our time sync because earnings are important time-wise. I always like to check my broker chart and make sure it's set data series, trading hours, default 24/7. That way, my price gets updated after 4 p.m. Okay? That's why I use data series default 24/7. I like to be in sync on all my trades, even if I have to laugh. I'm a musician, right? So I spend my life, if I repeat a phrase and it's like a lyric that I know, it like overtakes my whole being. So I'm saying to you, even if I was talking about a setup and then I'm thinking Don Henley, even if you don't love me anymore, great Don Henley song. Uh, I forget which record, but anyway, I like to sing. I was talking about being in sync, even if you don't love me, even if the trade is not tied to having to be in sync by an instant. Like this trade, our orders might be on the charts for minutes. So the sync, heart of the matter. Thank you, Jeff. That's the song. Great record, too. New York Minutes on that record. What else is on that record? New York Minute, Heart of the Matter. Oh, I can't remember now. But Don Henley has a tremendous, tremendous solo body of work outside of the Eagles. That is really, really good quality. His most recent record, it's probably about 3 or 4, his most recent recording, it's probably about 3 or 4 years old. It's called Cass County. If you like what I would call country, but not traditional country, it's a really beautiful record. I don't think Boys of Summer is on that one. I think Boys of Summer was a lot earlier, Jeff, but I'm not positive. I'm not positive. I think that Boys of Summer is earlier. I'll tell you, man, he did a version of Boys of Summer when he was on the Howard Stern show. I just happened to see it on YouTube the other night. A totally beautifully slowed down version of Boys of Summer. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I love that song too. Really great song. I spend all my evenings, no joke, just listening to music over and over and over, nonstop. I listen to so much music. It's one of my favorites too, Al. It's definitely in my top three Don Henley songs. End of the Innocence, also because I love Bruce Hornsby. I'm a Bruce Hornsby fanatic, and Hornsby wrote the music to that, and it's just so Hornsby, that song. It's so beautiful. So that's I think that I probably like that maybe better than Boys of Summer. All right, YouTube folks, come on. There's a lot of you out there. Please give us a like. Give us a like. You'll find that. Sign up for the channel so you know the next time we're going to be here. We're going to be here tomorrow, trading Amazon earnings. Now, see, this candle is going to be, this candle and this candle are going to be our highs and lows so far. And it's a big stretch. We're going to have to shrink our orders. Jeff, you make a very interesting point. The older you get, the faster time goes. It certainly seems like minutes or a couple of months between those records, but it's 6 years. You're right. Boys of Summer and Cass County. Al, that's very good to hear, Al. So watch the setups in the room, Al, and if I go too fast, slow me down. I can't do anything now because we're so close to the trade, but in general, I'm glad you got it going. You know, Al, it's funny. I've had people take a year to get their software going, and then they became tremendously successful traders. Some people have been in the trade room for years and never traded, and then all of a sudden they start trading. And some people spend months. So it's kind of crazy. I liked Boston. I mean, you can't uh, say anything bad about the incredible first record that they made. It was music changing. It was dramatic. It was a dramatically fantastic record. So I'm going to pay attention to the market. So look, I don't want to lose my boss's money. There's nothing I want more than a good trade. But, I don't have the power to do anything except try to manipulate my orders as best as I possibly can. And that's what I'm going to do. I might wait a whole minute before I put the orders on because Facebook's history is that they don't usually release their earnings until after at least a minute is gone. So the question is it foolish to wait a minute? I might miss the trade, and then this will all just be, an exercise in education, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with education. I'm just waiting for the market to calm down a little bit. And then I'm going to put my orders on. My gut feeling, if I had to have a gut feeling, it's that Facebook is going to be positive, not negative. But there's no way to know. I have no idea that that's true. What I just want to see a burst, and I want the burst to pull me in the market and hit my targets. That's what I would prefer. I can't guarantee it, right? I'm just trying to stay out of the way right now. That's all I'm trying to do, is stay out of the way. You get it? Trying to stay out of the way. You understand? And sometimes I get filled before the earnings come out and I have to just exit the trade, sometimes for a loss. But it's the old cry in the corner. You can't cry in the corner. Don't cry in the corner. You'll survive. You'll live another day. Right? We will live another day, hopefully. Earnings are out, they're negative. They certainly looked at, we got no move out of the NQ though. No move out of the NQ, very unusual. So I don't know what's going on right now. So that makes me a little bit nervous. I don't want to be pulled into this trade because I don't see a trade. That's why I'm moving my orders. I see maybe a whipsaw and maybe a no trade. So I don't know that the earnings are out. My financial juice is not, I'm not hearing anything. Usually you can see when the earnings come out, but right now, we're not really seeing much of anything. I'm just trying to stay away because I really don't know. Folks, I thought the earnings were out. If anybody hears anything on the news, type it in, because I don't know and I can't hear. That almost looks like the earnings came out and it whipped. So I may not play. All right? I may just not play, folks. It looks like there's no trade. Because right now it's just a whipsaw. There's nothing going on that is tradable. You understand? I don't want to get pulled in for the sake of being pulled in. There's a fair amount of Facebook movement, but I'm not seeing earnings movement, honestly. So I don't like what I'm seeing, to be honest. I just don't have a sense of what's going on. Normally, Financial Juice is talking. The earnings have not come out. They have not come out. Ford came out. No Facebook. They're out now. It's going to stop me. All right, so you understand I didn't panic, but I only made $35. No, I made 135. I was down 100. Look, the earnings came out. I tried to increase the size of my target, and the NQ just bounced up and down. It didn't give me the move when I was looking for it. So I was down $100 before the trade, so I made 135 bucks. So, because I'm up 35 now. So the answer to the question, AJ, how do you know when the earnings come out? Look at that candle. That's how you know. That's how you know. And we just did not get that NQ explosion that we wanted. You got a much better move in the stock today. Let me turn off my trade. I don't mind making $135. It was pretty stress-free. But the Thinkorswim told me when the earnings came out, it was 405. So mark your journal, 405, very late, very late. So, you don't have to panic putting your orders on at 401, right? But I still made $135. I was down 100. Remember, I lost $100 on the FOMC. I made it back plus another 35. And it wasn't a very big move. Okay, the stock moved much better. So who wants to ask questions now? Now it's time for questions. Absolutely, AJ, absolutely. Now, AJ, Financial Juice does tell you when the earnings come out, but it's usually after the move by the NQ is over, okay? The stock is having a much more interesting move than the NQ. Stock on the right, NQ on the left, okay? Stock on the right, NQ on the left. I didn't panic because I saw a big down move. I actually increased my downward target, and I really just, I just didn't get much. I just didn't get much. So, folks, thank you so much for watching on Facebook. We're going to do the same thing with Amazon tomorrow. Sometimes you get an explosive move. Sometimes you don't. I'll say it 1,000 times. It's okay. No point worrying about it. You just move on to the next trade. Now, tomorrow morning early, right? Tomorrow morning early, Oh, PayPal, thanks. Let's stick around till 4:15. So, PayPal. I don't think PayPal is going to move the market. I just don't think it's going to. All right? I don't think it's big enough. It has that much influence. They don't talk about PayPal that much. When eBay jettisoned PayPal, that was the end for PayPal, in my opinion. PayPal is a much more minor company now. When eBay, chucked PayPal as their main method of payment, I think that was devastating for PayPal. No one talked about it much, but I think it was devastating for PayPal. That was a tremendous amount of business that disappeared literally overnight. I don't, and PayPal, they are greedy. Talk about greedy. When they changed their rules so that when a transaction was canceled, they still wouldn't refund the fees. That's called greed. I'm a pig. And that's PayPal. A greedy pig of a company. So I hope you don't own part of it, and I hope you don't work there, because they're not one of my favorites. I don't like when companies screw me to speak English, Yes, AJ, at 3:50, we used to have an end of the day NQ trade at 3:50. It's a market on close. It's an imbalance where they balance orders. It was really hard to trade it. If you watch it every day, AJ, you'll see it makes the move every day. But it's so darn inconsistent. We traded it for like a year. We used to call it our end of the day trade. End of the day trade. It was a lot of fun to trade. And for a while, it worked great also. It worked great for a while. And then it just stopped working, and we couldn't find a setup for it. And it was just, we gave up on it. It was too inconsistent. And also, what Fred is saying is really very, very meaningful. It was great in sim. It was great in sim. Yeah, Brian, it was a call your broker trade at times, yet sometimes you didn't know if you were short or long. If you were in or out of the market, it would take place so fast. It was definitely a call your broker trade. We've had some of those. Call your broker. Very, very scary trade. But it's just part of the it's part of the routine. Sometimes you have trades that are so frighteningly fast. Sometimes they work also, and they give you positive slippage. Like what was the trade last month that was so incredible? What was the trade that had incredible slippage? Oh, you know what? It was Australia Jobs and WASD. No, David, it was quarterly grains. It was the quarterly grains and Australia Jobs. They both gave us gifts. Now, PayPal's not out. Now, I'm not interested in trading PayPal live. So you might ask why. Why am I not interested? Because it never traded when I had the opportunity to trade it. So let's set it up as a sim. All right, 12 ticks above and below the range, 6-bar look back, 2 contracts for 7 ticks, 1 contract for 20, a stop of 15, and a 1-click range trade in sim. Let's see what it does. Apply, okay, sim, there's my orders. Let's put them on the chart. get them out of the way, and let's wait for PayPal. I will hear from Financial Juice, and we might be able to tell. They say 415. Up until 3 weeks ago, the market, the NQ, was closed at 415. Remember? 415 to 430. They changed that. They don't close anymore. So we're watching PayPal. You know, it's possible PayPal might have a meaningful move. I might be sorry I'm not trading it. It looks like it's getting ready to come out, doesn't it? I think it's out. But the NQ is not agreeing, right? The NQ is not going the right way. So the NQ is saying that PayPal is not out. And honestly, Thinkorswim is not saying that it's out. But sometimes, you know, you might not get a very impactful move. You might not get a good move. Now, there's a gap, a little bit of a gap. PayPal's not. PayPal, you're getting a lot of action in the stock. And unfortunately, Financial Juices, there it is. The earnings are out. Huge short for PayPal. No surprise. That's a company that stinks. People hate them. Not much of a move from the NQ, right? So you don't trade that. You would cancel that trade. I would cancel that trade. Why would you want to trade it when it's not having an effect, right? No effect. That was a big move in the stock. That was a big move. It went from like 33, it was like 33, almost 40 points. So I would cancel that trade. You just don't have a meaningful move. The NQ is not a good proxy for PayPal, right? Not a good proxy. So, but we could put that trade right back on just by clicking the button. I didn't mean to do that. So I closed that out in Sim. Why did it do that? My charts are far apart, and it's because my orders, I wonder, I have an idea. So you could trade it again. Like, let's say you think there's going to be a big trend in the market because it was Amazon. Maybe you only want to trade it in one direction. So you could use the squeeze play instead of the one-click range trade, right? You could set it up in a very similar way, but you could decide the direction you want to take. And the direction might be short. So I might want to move this out of the way for today, and I might want to get pulled in right now. Now, let the market come to me a little bit, right? Will it pull me in short? Not really dying to trade it, though, because you're just not getting good NQ movement. So you're asking for trouble. You're definitely asking for trouble, right? Trouble. What movie was that? Trouble. The guy said, I forget the rest of the line. Trouble. But that's all you need to know. Trouble. You can close it, Chantal. Thanks, everybody on YouTube. Give us a like, and we'll see you